really loud.
Yeah, it's really important. Yeah.
So welcome. It's good to see all y'all tonight, especially here we are in these waning days of school being over and end of grades and school activities. So we're just really happy that you all could come out tonight for this this last conversation of our school year. I just want to get a sense of who's in the room. If you are a parent or a student right now connected to any of our schools around here, stand up. Parents and grandparents, guardians, anybody? Yes, stand up. Wow. All right. So let's just, guys, stay standing up, stay standing up. So if you're connected, if you have a connection to an elementary school, raise your hand. A middle school? A high school? A preschool? Okay, we have some good representation. All right, you can sit down. And then what about if you are an educator, if you are a teacher or a support staff or administrator in a school? Do we have any people? Yay! Okay, stand up. All right. Okay, let's give these people a hand too. Thank you for your service this year. And then we always have people that are community advocates for equity, who are connected, who just really care about this or connected to other agencies. If someone's here that's representing something else, just the community or their own interests, stand up. Okay, all right. Did I miss anybody? Does anybody not stand up for something? Okay, great. Well, thank you so much for being here tonight. We your host, represent the Campaign for Racial Equity in Our Schools and the NAACP Education Committee and the Justice in Action Committee of the Town of Chapel Hill and the Orange County Human Relations Committee. And this is our third year of doing this series, and we do one every month. And a lot of you are here every month, and we just so appreciate your coming and your support, because we think these conversations are so important. And we've been lucky to have people who are educators, students bring us conversations. We've had people from the academic community who are studying these issues bring us conversations. And we've had groups, nonprofit groups, that sort of share our goal for working for racial equity in our schools, come and give presentations, and that's the kind of group that we have here tonight. So we're so happy to have the Family Success Alliance here to bring us a program. We consider them to be such important partners in this work, and we're all just really looking forward to what we're going to talk about tonight. I'm going to start out by introducing the first presenter from the Family Success Alliance, and then I'm going to let her take over and tell you more about the group and introduce the other presenters too. So LaKira Grimes is a self-sufficiency program director at the Compass Center for Women and Families. She represents the Compass Center and the Family Success Alliance Partner Network, where she works with navigators to create programs and services aligned with parent and family priorities. As an active member of the Partner Network, LaKira attended the 2018 Equity Summit in Chicago and continues to be a leading voice working towards racial equity. And so I want to welcome you, LaKira, and let you get the show started.
Well, thank you all so much for having me and FSA this evening. So I'm one of your co-facilitators today, and I also have a few around the room. Let me know if you all can't hear me. I'm not used to using a microphone, so good. So we have Kobe, who is one of your co-facilitators to the right, and then also Lakaya at this front table here. We also have Antonia, who is right here, and then Meredith also helped put this together, as well as Kristen Prelip, who is a part of FSA as well. So today, we're really here to facilitate discussion around how FSA kind of does equity work, and also share with you kind of what Family Success Alliance is, how exactly that works within Orange County, and through a number of different activities. So your first activity will be, well, you'll see a video next, and then your first activity will be a vision board activity that we use to center the core of our work that our parents complete yearly in our parent council. council, and then we'll really kind of talk about what Family Success Alliance is, what are like the integral pieces, and how racial equity work, how we work towards racial equity within Family Success Alliance. So next we'll have a video facilitated by Kristen. It is an FSA video, and then the next voices you'll hear, it will be Lakaya and Antonia, and they'll facilitate our next discussion, okay?
Elementary, Carver Elementary, and Frank Porter Graham Bilingual. The beauty, just very quick before we jump in, the beauty of the Navigators is that we are from the communities that we are serving. So even though I was born in Durham, my family has their roots in Chapel Hill. My roots are in Chapel Hill. I was one of the kids that grew up at Hargraves for camp, and I go to a church here in Chapel Hill. So I've been here all my life, and I moved here during my middle school years, and I've been here ever since. This is home, and I'm very passionate about what FSA is doing in the community, what we're doing for our families, and that's why I'm here.
I wasn't born here, but I went through the system in Orange County. I went to Orange County school, so the families that I'm helping have kids in the schools that I went through. The shoes that they are now I took the steps they took, and they see me as hope as they can do it. I feel very honored that they feel like that, because right now they're struggling with things that I struggled before. So I'm really honored to say that.
So we're going to go ahead and jump right into it. Each of you, if you will notice, there is a big sheet of butcher paper on your tables. And the activity that we're going to do is sort of like a vision board activity. This is something that we did with our parent council earlier in the year as a way to kind of focus our efforts in regards to how we wanted to bring about change in the communities that we are serving. And we thought, what better way to do that than with our parent council. A big thing for Family Success Alliance is that our parents are guiding the work, and it's not, somebody who's affiliated with the county coming in and saying, you need to do this, this, and this. We're listening to our parents who are representative of the families in their communities and asking them, what are you seeing as barriers? What are you seeing as needs that need to be addressed? And then what can we do to help you address those so that we can help you all be out there changing what needs to be changed for your families and your communities. So what you're going to do is you're going to draw circles. So in your middle circle will be you, and however you define your family. We recognize that family can be different for many people. For many people, it's, their immediate family, brothers and sisters, mom and dad. For others, it might just be their children, like myself. I'm a single parent, so it really just be me and my son. And then for others, it may just be them and a friend or two. So however you define family, we want that in your middle circle. Your outermost circle, draw all of your goals, all of your dreams, even if they were, childhood dreams that you wanted, whatever those were, just put those on your outer circle. You can just write it out, you can be creative and draw it out. And the middle ring that you form from drawing those two circles, we want to put all the things that stop you from getting to your goals and your dreams. What are the barriers that you encounter, that you might encounter if you haven't reached those goals yet? But if you did reach those goals, what are the barriers that you encountered that kind of made it difficult for you to get to that? And then after that, we'll just take some time in our groups to talk, and then we'll just come back together in a larger group.
Feel free to share the butcher paper, the coloring pencils. Everybody can get a corner, a little piece.
So first off, does anybody want to share anything? Can you guys hear me now? Okay. So for starters, were there any things that came up in your discussions with your small groups that anybody would like to share? Or anything that really resonated with you as you did the vision board activity?
Okay, so, so when it comes to the goals, we all commonly said health, security and health, economic security, living wages, and a charge agent to take charge in that. The common barriers, we all kind of agreed in an equitable economic system, systemic racism, collective attitudes in regards to that, and a large system that's equitable in access to educational opportunities. And internalized racial oppression is something that's a barrier. And that was it.
Thank you. Anyone else like to share? Anything that came out from their groups, common goals that you all saw in each other's circles, or if you did like a collaborative circle, anything that stuck out? Any thoughts as a whole about the activity, what you thought of it?
Seems like
I thought this was a great activity. It showed me that all of us pretty much had the same concerns, the same goals, and similar family members. Two of us were trying to figure out how do you create an older person on it, so we put a cane. That was good. One thing that I had added was not necessarily just to say something about race or racism, but I said that one of the challenges was that I believe I am always being discounted as being a contributing person. Contributing as far as ideas are concerned, contributing as far as solutions are concerned, and I believe that I'm prejudged when I walk into a room as being someone who is unintelligent. By the way I'm greeted, like, hey girl, what's up girl? I'm like, you don't know me, and no one in my family even talks like that, so stop. What are you talking about, So there were just some other little subtle things that turn out to be not so subtle, because then when people address me in that way, if I get upset, then I'm looked at, oh, she's an angry black woman, here we go. So I no longer am able to even show expression. I practice not showing expression. That's unhealthy. That's a really unhealthy thing. And sometimes it doesn't work, but this was a great exercise, thanks.
So I was explaining to my group that we did this with our parent council again to, once again, just bring collective voice into what families saw as major barriers to reaching their goals for their children, as well as their families and themselves. When we did this activity, one major thing that did come up from this was navigating the education system here in Orange County. Because majority of our families are Spanish speaking and Caribbean Burmese speaking, we're in process of a two-part series, so to speak. Earlier in the month, we had some family social workers from the middle schools in both zones come in and talk to families about what it looks like to transition from elementary to middle school. And then next week, we will have some high school counselors come in to talk about what transitioning from middle school to high school looks like, what parents should be preparing for, what can they be doing now with their younger kids, as well as their older kids, as we start thinking about, getting them through high school and off to whatever their dreams are after high school. Anything else you want to add? So I will turn it back over to Kobe.
So we're now going to have a couple folks who are connected to the Family Success Alliance talk about different pieces of our work, and then hopefully we'll still have some time for Q&A before they kick us out of the library and they shut down. My name is Kobe, and I work at the health department and part of what we call sort of the backbone staff for the Family Success Alliance. So we're a collective impact initiative and work with partners throughout the county. And as the backbone, we're sort of the anchor institution for the work. We got started about 5 years ago, around the time when the county commissioners were seeing some concerning trends related to childhood poverty, kind of post-recession. And Orange County is not a place where people often think about childhood poverty. I was in Warrenton just a week ago, and when you talk about Orange County and Warrenton and childhood poverty, they're kind of looking at you outside their eyes. But if you'll turn the slide, what you see, if you can see the screen, is this is United Way Self-Sufficiency Index, and this is from 2017, and it looks at what does it actually cost for families to make ends meet in communities across the state. And Orange County actually comes out as the most expensive community to raise a family in. So if you have one preschool child and one adult in your household, it costs about $50,000 to just make ends meet with housing and childcare and those kinds of things without public assistance. And as a community, we actually have one of the greatest gaps between families who are struggling and more affluent families, which just makes it that much harder to take that step between the two. And $50,000 is about $24 an hour. So we're working hard to get a living wage here in Orange County, and that's still not quite enough to really just be able to support a family. You can go to the next slide and hit one more. And you can do one more too. So I mentioned we're a collective impact initiative, and we work with partners throughout the county. And the exercise that we just did, I think, brings up a lot of those root causes that our families identify. And when they sit together and have the conversations like we just did, they're seeing those commonalities across the families, and also in that process building some of the connections and social support that gives us the strength to work beyond that. When Family Success Alliance got started about 5 years ago, one of the first things we did was look at Orange County, and we had looked at other successful initiatives like the Harlem Children's Zone and Promise Neighborhoods that all work at the neighborhood level. And so the health department, using data available within the county of where kids on Medicaid lived or where housing choice vouchers were used, those type of data created an index for the county that identified 6 zones within the community where families were more likely to be struggling to make ends meet, and then worked with those communities and champions within those communities in an advisory council that the county commissioners had established to identify 2 zones to start the work. And so we are working, as you can see on the slide here, in Zone 4, which is in the Hillsborough area, includes New Hope Elementary School, and runs from sort of just south of downtown Hillsborough out to the Durham County line. And then in Zone 6, within the Chapel Hill Carborough City School District, including Frank Porter Graham Elementary School, Carborough, and Northside. And this summer will be our 5th summer doing a Ready for K, Ready for Kindergarten programming within those schools. And we started the Navigator program as one of the first initiatives, and you'll hear a little bit more about that shortly. We just finished a strategic planning process, and you should have had a copy of the strategic plan on your chair. I won't go into too much detail about that. In fact, I'll start passing the mic around so that other colleagues around the room can speak to the different pieces of it. But I wanted to highlight, as part of the mission, our work in connecting families who are living in poverty to resources and high-quality resources, but also uncovering their power to drive the equity and systems change, and recognizing that they have that power, and it's a matter of looking at how does it look like to play that out throughout their lives in the different school system and with the different partners that we work with. So I'm going to pass it to Antonia over there, who's going to talk about the family empowerment strategy within our strategic plan and the Navigator program's role in that.
Hey everyone, once again, my name is Antonia Cortez. I'm one of the SO navigators. I work with SO 4, which is Hillsborough, Outer Orange County towards Durham. So the Navigator program, basically we help families connect with resources around them. We connect with families on a monthly basis, sometimes even more. We help them create goals. No goal is ever too small or too big. Every family is different. We usually connect them to our 20 partners that we have, but we are not limited to that. We also connect them with churches and other resources around the area. We also want to give the parents the power and the tools they need to be successful. We just want to give them that little push. We don't tell them what to do. They are the ones that guide the work, and we're really passionate about that. I do want to give you a small example. I've been working with a single mom. Her goal was to have after school and summer camp. The only thing she needed me to do was look for the websites. I did that. She did the research. She worked really hard to get her child into the right place. While she was doing that, she realized that English was very, that she really didn't understand English. So she put it upon herself to learn English. She went to one of our partners, Orange Literacy. She took English classes, and now she has a job where she gets paid more because she knows English. And this is something that I'm very proud of because she put her goal, I just gave her the resources, and she did the work. So I am going to pass the microphone to Lakaya to speak a little bit about more on FSA.
I talk a lot, so please forgive me for the sake of time. So part of our strategic plan also includes system change, and that's where our equity work comes in. So FSA has worked, especially over the last year or so, since I started, so I've been here for about a year, to really look at what equity looks like, not only externally as we're working with our families and in our communities, but also what it looks like internally as FSA as a general organization. So some of the things that we've done, of course, when we all come on, whether it's backbone staff or navigators, we do go through the REI training, at least phase 1, and we work through that. Some of us have gone to phase 2, I believe, or are in the process of preparing for the phase 2 training. We have created an equity team, which includes some of our backbone staff members as well as the navigators, because we know that equity, and we have learned that talking about equity is a hard topic sometimes. We have an equity team to help us guide those conversations, and what does it look like to have somebody come in to work with us on that? How can we best approach those conversations without it being so much tension to the point where we can't do our work efficiently and productively and make sure that we're serving our families the way we need to. We did work with consultants to come in and do a Myths and Truths about Equity workshop with both our partner network as well as our Family Success Alliance Advisory Council. And what came from that was we took their work with an equity grid and applied it to FSA. And what does that look like? What were the assumptions we were making? What does equity look like when it's working for FSA? What does equity look like when it's not working for FSA? And some of the things that did come up were more inclusivity in regards to our families, as well as some of the organizations that we do collaborate with. Just overall dismantling the different systems that are in place that do make it hard for our families to thrive and succeed, as well as making sure that leadership matches our diverse populations. I will also say that navigators and families from FSA are also out in the communities doing this work. So we serve on different committees and coalitions that are focused on equity and advocacy in the community. We have our families who are joining those committees that they think would be a good fit for them, where they can produce the most change or have the best voice possible. For example, Chapel Hill Carbondale City Schools has started an equity advisory council that I have joined. I have a family who has joined, and she's taking the information that she's learning and she's taking it back to the parent group that she's a part of at Carville Elementary, and I know that there are other parents at some of our other zone schools who are taking the information back to their families as well. So we're not just holding this information in for ourselves and just for our families because we only want to see our families progress, but we really are working with our families for spreading outwards to our communities so that everybody is coming up together and successful. And
So my name is Lakira, of course, and I represent a partner in the Partner Network. I'm the Self-Sufficiency Programs Director at Compass Center, and that entails a number of different things. But for FSA specifically, we do financial education and financial literacy work along with domestic violence crisis work. But I really manage the work that we do with families around financial education and financial literacy. I will say that like being a partner has really challenged Compass Center in really kind of thinking about how effective our services are and how those services can be tailored and catered to meet the needs of different populations. For FSA specifically, we do financial literacy workshops in each of the zones that are accessible through partnerships with the zone schools. So in Zone 4, which sometimes I get tied up, so in Zone 4, which is the Hillsborough zone, we partner with Standback Middle School and host the financial literacy workshops at the school, provide childcare, dinner, and transportation. A lot of times really talking about financial burdens and different things like that. Takes a lot of effort, so we try to decrease as many barriers as possible. And then in Zone 6, we partnered with like Northside and also just some community churches to make financial workshops really accessible to English and Spanish speakers, which are the two languages we currently offer in. I will say that being a partner with FSA has really, challenged us as an organization to really think about racial equity work and think about how to, make the financial education really realistic for families. I think a lot of times when we talk about like financial literacy and education is from this lens that people just don't know how to manage their money, when that's not necessarily the case. There are like other barriers that really impact a family's ability to manage their financial resources and even like accessing more financial resources. So as an organization, we've really worked hard over the time we've been involved with FSA, and we also kind of have expanded some of our programs to a point where we're hiring a financial advocate who will be able to provide like individual services for Spanish speakers, which is something we've never provided before in the overall Orange County community. So being a partner really kind of challenges us as an organization to really think about racial equity work, who are we reaching, how are we reaching clients, and then also holding us accountable in the way that we're doing work and making sure that the services that are most needed for families who are trying to escape generational poverty are available and that they're accessible through like the Navigator Network and other partnerships, which is a core of racial equity, of course. So that's kind of like the work that we do at Compass Center. As a whole, and just being in the partner network has really encouraged us to kind of be more aware of how our services come across, how are we effectively managing partnerships in the community with clients, members, and anyone who is interested in our services. So it's really been like a joy and a learning experience to be a part of FSA.
So that was a lot of information, and we want to make sure we have some time and space for any comments, thoughts, questions. So if people want to raise their hand, bring the mic to you.
I have a question. I think I can talk loud enough. I hear you all talking about these navigators. I'm trying to get some information from my daughter, and she lives in Chapel Hill. And I heard you talk about a Hillsborough navigator, but is there a Chapel Hill navigator? And how do I get? I want to get my daughter connected to this program. So I want to know, what does she need to, because she couldn't come here. Well, I didn't know that this is what it was going to be about, else I would have had her come. So I would like to just get some more information on how do I get my daughter connected to, because she could take advantage of some of the financial education. She wants to go back to school, to go to college, I should say. And so there's it seems like you have a lot of resources out there that she might be able to take advantage of. She is a single parent, and so I would like to be able to share this information with her.
Okay. Is she at one of our schools currently, or this child?
My grandson goes to Carborough Elementary Pre-K.
Okay, rising kindergarten?
Yeah.
Okay, so there are several ways that you can join the Navigator program. One way is that they can self-refer. If you go to the FamilySuccess.org website and click Join Us.
FamilySuccessAlliance.org.
And what I said?
Yeah.
It's on the
Oh,
that as
yeah,
well. It has my contact information as well as the website at the bottom. But if you go to, if that family were to go to Join Us, they would see a Google Doc that would allow them to put in their information and submit it to FSA directly. It would go to our community outreach specialist, who would then work with our lovely navigator supervisor, Ms. Dana Cruz, and she will look at the Zone 6 navigator who would be available to take on that family, and we would reach out, give them a call. The other way that a family can join is if one of our partners refers them, and again, that form is also available through Family Success Alliance through the Join Us link. It's a PDF fillable form, so you can actually just go in, fill it out, and then send it right back over to the NACA. And again, the process will still be the same. We also do take kids in, rising kindergartners through the Ready for K Camp. So if they wanted to participate in that as well, we could talk more about that over the phone. You can have her give me a call. But we also do bring our families in that way through the Ready for K Camp. Once they participated in that, we ask them if they might be interested and host like a series of little events that will give them more information about that as well. But you can give me a call directly. We can talk more about it.
Yeah, and I will also say that our financial education services are not exclusive to FSA. So even if FSA is not a good fit, or there something happens awry, Compass Center also does individual learning and counseling in-house, and our services are informed by the mission of FSA as well. So she can still access those services even if she's not a part of the Navigator program or her with FSA.
And I'd say that's true for all the partners that we're connected to. There's nothing that's exclusive to the families that we're working with, so we can always connect out. And we have a monthly newsletter that comes out where all of the upcoming things are always listed. So there was a sign-in sheet when you came in. If you sign up there, then you can connect to that.
I'll say one more thing. I know people probably have other questions, but just because a family, for whatever reason, is not able to do the Navigator program, we still encourage them to reach out to us because we are still a community resource and we still want to help those families. Even if we can't, be at their side, we can still direct them in some kind of direction to get the help that they need. So,
I have a concern. I heard you mention that you work with Northside, whatever, the Northside community. But there's other communities here, and I wondered how would you get that information to them? Because again, my whole advocacy has been for these three communities: the Eastwood community, the Oakwood community, the Ridgefield community, and the Eastwood. Those areas nobody really know about. They're hidden. So I'm like, how will we get that information to them? Because they're the ones that will need that assistance, I truly believe. So I said to my dear sister here, when I start doing what I got planned, I hope to have y'all set a table up inside the community so that you can give your information out inside that community. Because what you mentioned as far as internet and all that, some of those families don't have accessibility to that, nor do they know how to articulate or navigate such things. So it'd be better to be physically present and discuss their opportunities because they are the lack of resources. They are the ones suffering from lack of resources. So, and I'm an advocate for that particular community. I'm familiar with Northside. They're doing pretty good, but I'm talking about the ones that nobody's paying attention to.
And I have to agree, I'm glad you said that, because I actually work in Northside, and it always baffles me as to how Northside Elementary seems to get everything. And what happens to all the other schools?
That's my question to you.
Yes, why? It's always Northside Elementary.
Because it's a Title IX school. You have to have 40% of your population be financially struggling to be a Title IX school. what your type of line school we are, because Frankfurt, where I teach is, because almost half of our population struggles financially.
I'm quite sure, and other schools are struggling financially.
Well, there's only 2 schools in Chattanooga that are Title IX. Now, there are Title IX sections within the school, so you have to have a larger population. You could call Chattanooga schools and find out the specifics, but that's my understanding.
Thank you.
Yeah. That's not to say those communities are any less in need
Right.
or anything, but if you're going through the public schools as a school community, the numbers are so great. But that doesn't mean that Ridgewood doesn't have a lot of people who have need, and that would be an interesting thing to find out how to reach out to those people if they aren't in a school.
But the real interesting part is those communities at some point was black communities. So now we have other cultures such as the Burmese family and they're mixed into the community too, which to me is another separatist, it's another form of segregation. Because that community don't understand that community and they got misnomers. So that information is gonna have to be for multicultural. You know, it's gonna have to be Asian and Latino, it's gonna have to be because they're doing that. And so, you know, that's the most alarming part. You know, I want to help the refugees' family, but I don't want them in my community. You know, I'm going to stick them in the community that I already marginalized. You know, so that's my concern. You know, and I think what we had a thing at Oakwood maybe a week ago, and it was outstanding. And I think that's what we need to do. We need to connect the communities, get them to know one another, and then work and get done. But to create this barrier separate everybody and say that's them people. You know, it's still not changing the narrative. And I just would like to see y'all sound outstanding as far as all these things.
Good evening. The library will be closing in 10 minutes at 8 o'clock.
Yeah, thank you for bringing that into the room and into the space. And I think, like Kaya said, you know, the interest is certainly in seeing what we all do together. So let's definitely follow up. And it sounds like we're about to get kicked out of here, but I know that you've given someone your information, and we will follow up.
Okay.
So, was there one more?
I just wanted to thank you for bringing our attention to it because Yvonne and I both work in a program that does education work, talking about the history of Mike.
Talking about the history of, sorry, got too close. Different, groups that have, in mostly African American groups here, but, it's become more obvious that there are groups in places, like you said, other than Northside, other than even Carver, other than Frank Porter Graham, which are places we like to work in. We have a lot of, always, we have great partners there, but to look for communities, like your community, where do the kids go to school?
Well, most of them go to FSA, Phillip, East Central High.
Because we got, actually, I'm sorry, we have to pack the room up. So what we would